Cosmic laws, equality. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. Many people around the world are familiar with these words of the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. Almost all of us are attracted to the idea of equality. This is because equality is more than just a political idea thought up by moral men and women, or an idea merely related to race, commerce, or gender. Equality is a cosmic law, a principle of life of the highest order, which originates in God, not man. All men are created equal. It is equally true, according to the divine law of equality, that all life forms created by God are equal. This includes angels, devas, animals, plants, minerals, and elements. We are all equal in this respect. Each living being is created and sustained by the same divine, indwelling, positive, negative, creative life force of our Father, Mother God. We also are equal in that each of us has a divinely mandated triune purpose that compels us to live, to think, to feel, and to evolve toward ever greater expression of love. This is a divine trinity of being, knowing, and acting, or in other words, life, light, and love. Beyond these, there are real and imagined inequalities. But neither man nor beast, neither death nor destruction of any kind can destroy the divine energy and divine trinity which God has established in each of us, his or her children. Before we discuss the inequalities within the race of man, let's look at the relationship between man and nature. The misconception that man is in all ways superior to the other life forms on Earth has contributed heavily to the current desecration of the planet that scientists around the world have revealed and that we cope with daily. God did create man with greater spiritual consciousness and the powers by which to govern or have dominion over the lower animals. By lower, it does not mean inferior in the sense of being less important or having less value, merit, or quality. Mankind must not be less respectful and less appreciative of the life, the enlightenment, and the love of any life form. Life, light, and love are the inalienable rights endowed by the Creator to each and every being in the universe. What, then, is the proper way of thinking about our differences with and relationship to the nature kingdoms? Here are two sets of similar ideas from remarkably different sources. The first set is from Archangel Uriel, as channeled by me and published in our text, Evolution of Man and Angels and Man in 1971 and 74 respectively. The second set is from a little-known Russian Jew, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, published in his book, An Anthology of Sayings in 1796. First, Lord Uriel. All source is one, and all energy force is the same. However, the degree by which the energy force is utilized makes for the difference in levels of consciousness, function, service, and responsibility. She states further, so never look down upon any other species, no matter how confined it may be in its expression of now, and see it not in the same energy of expanding out consciousness, for it is so. Some take longer and have less intelligence and force of energy to drive it forth. Now in Rabbi Zalman's words, the infinite being fills all worlds and provides the life force for them all. The essence of the infinite being is exactly the same in the lowest worlds as it is in the highest. The only difference between the highest spiritual worlds and the lowest ones involves the transmission of the life force. The higher worlds receive this in a somewhat more revealed manner than the lower ones. The entities that exist in each world then receive it, each one according to its own particular nature and strength. In each case, this depends on the particular mode through which the infinite being transmits life force to each one and illuminates it. This is an excellent example of how truth, though it be revealed and stated differently, remains the same through time and place. First, let's turn our attention back to an archangel, Lord Camael, who on October 26, 1971, communicated the solution to man's failure to apply the law of equality in his relationship with all kingdoms of life. The higher self, the spiritual goals and missions of any force, are those that speak of equal sharing, equal opportunities, equitable arrangements of all that exists for the good of all who are expressing in the same area of development. In the broadest sense, this does include every life form and every element. But when one superimposes over another or shares only an insignificant amount of his bounty with another, you have much imbalance in the area of expression, mentality, emotionality, and spiritual speaking. These imbalances then create other imbalances, until you bring about a balance on earth in these things, you never can create a truly spiritualized energy comparison and bring the entire species of man with his brethren of the other dimensions and the other kingdoms elsewhere into a profitable and sharing arrangement, which will enhance all equally and will develop all simultaneously. That must be the purpose of any dimension of activity. It must be the purpose of any planet that is expressing anywhere. Throughout our history, to our credit, we have been concerned with the law of equality, though we may have called it by another name. One such name is the Golden Rule, and it has been expressed in many different ways. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or as Kung Fuzu Confucius taught, a man of humanity, wishing to establish his own character, also establishes the character of others, and wishing to be prominent himself also helps others to be prominent. But even though we may know the Golden Rule, let's not fool ourselves by thinking it is easy to live that way. In a channeling on April 16, 1958, reviewing the three major temptations that all of us face, Jesus had the law of equality first on the list. One of the temptations is spiritual pride. To think or to feel one is elevated above one's brother or sister in spiritual knowledge or favor is against the divine law of equality. All men are created equal. What you have gained, your sisters and brothers are capable of gaining and shall gain in their turn. Therefore, it is erroneous to put oneself above the crowd as having achieved something the others have not achieved, for time is the only factor between you and them. In the same way that our level of being is more expansive than that of the nature kingdom, there is also gradations in evolvement within the race of man. All of us are not equal in spiritual achievement. Decision by decision, action by action, throughout our present life and all other former lifetimes, either we have utilized spiritual energies and opportunities for growth properly, or we have frittered them away. Over time it all adds up. This is the truth behind Confucius' statement. By nature men are alike. Through practice they have become far apart. One of the main lessons of Jesus' parable of the prodigal son is to love people equally, regardless of what they do. In that parable, even though one son left his father's house and squandered all the inheritance money given to him, the father still loved that son as much as the other son who never left. We can liken this to those who would follow their own self-will, even when it conflicts with spiritual principles. They fritter away spirit's energy and delay the inheritance of their Christ consciousness and powers. Does spirit love these people any less? No. So we must love those who are in error as much as those who continue to try their best to do God's will. Time and again throughout history, people have restated the interconnectedness between the law of equality and the law of love. For example, in ancient China, there was a period known as the Warring States, which began in 480 B.C. Much like a microcosm of today's global condition, states were fighting each other because rulers were trying to dominate one another and become even more powerful. This resulted in social chaos and widespread poverty, hunger among the people. One of this hostile environment came a military leader and philosopher, Mao Zedong, with a solution, universal love. Explaining his conception of all-embracing love, Mao Zedong said, "It is to regard other people's countries as one's own, regard other people's families as one's own, regard other people's person as one's own. Consequently, when feudal lords love one another, they will not fight in the fields. When heads of family love one another, they will not usurp one another. When individuals love one another, they will not injure one another. When ruler and minister love each other, they will be kind and loyal. When father and son love each other, they will be affectionate and filial. When brothers love each other, they will be peaceful and harmonious. When all the people in the world love one another, the strong will not overcome the weak, the many will not oppress the few, the rich will not insult the poor, the honored will not despise the humble, and the cunning will not deceive the ignorant." Over 400 years after Mao Zedong, in the Middle East, at the dark and tragic hour in Jesus' life, he told his few disciples, "Just as my Father has loved me, I also have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have spoken these things to you that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you." Love is the key to healing mankind in nature. The law of equality is one of the keys to living the law of love. Let us replace thoughts and feelings of superiority and inferiority with those of divine equality. Let us envision all of mankind following spiritual laws just as God does and wills for us to do. By so doing, our joy and the joy of every living being in this world will be full. For God blesses us all equally.